Celebrity chef Lidia Bastianich influences millions of home cooks. Her story is a rags to riches one, from simple farm girl to international culinary mogul. In her PBS series, Lidia's Kitchen, the beloved chef mixes food with her stories of her growing up in Italy and her love of family. In part 2 of our interview, she opens up about her faith and her journey from running from communists in Yugoslavia to cooking for not one, but 2 popes. People know you as a famous chef, but what they may not know is your devotion to your Catholic faith.
It's interesting because when I was just born and raised, I was raised under communism. And under communism, we were not allowed to practice. So my religious upbringing, if you will, at a very early age was almost nascosto, was hidden. And my grandmother would sit with my brother and I on the stoops by the open fire, and she would tell us stories about the Bible, and to take us to church, and would teach us prayers. And then when we ultimately escaped and went back to Italy, there I entered Canosiane, the nuns Canosiane, the school, and there I really got to embrace and understand my faith. And so it was at 10 years old, I really kind of wholeheartedly felt free to understand and practice the faith, and I carried it ever since.
There was a nun who was very important in your life.
There was. Her name was Lidia, oddly enough, like me, and she took me under her wing and brought me into the school. And also, you know, being an immigrant, because we escaped at 10 years old in a school, new friends and all that, new kids, you kind of feel ill at ease. Well, she kind of nestled me right in with the friends, with the religion, and she followed me for the whole 2 years that we were, because when we escaped into Italy in 1956, we ended up in a political refugee camp, and from there I would go to school and to church.
And Catholic Relief Services helped you?
Absolutely. The Catholic Church, the Vatican, took it, I think, upon themselves to really resettle a lot of those immigrants, not unlike today. It's happening today as well.
From Catholic Relief Services to cooking for 2 popes.
Cooking for the 2 popes, I was nervous in the planning and all of that. But once you begin to do what you love, and for something that you do love, it becomes kind of easy. And I always say, you know, food is the ultimate equalizer. When you sit at the table with somebody, you know, you kind of become one.
Which pope liked your cooking better?
They both seemed very happy when they left the table, you know.
Okay.
As a chef, I look at the dishes, and the dishes seemed pretty clean when they came back.
What did you make Pope Benedict?
You know, Pope Benedict is, of course, German, and I did a little research. You know, his mother was a chef, so I said, he must have had good food. I made some risotto, I made some pasta, but I made also sauerkraut. I made goulash for him. I made apple strudel for him. I brought out all those kind of German flavors. The first night was very proper because, of course, it was the first night. He had his guests, the cardinals. But the next night was his birthday and what was the anniversary of his papacy. And so we did a big cake with the Midas on top. We brought it out, helped him cut the cake, we sang, and it was really wonderful. I felt so close. I felt like family.
You also cooked for Pope number 2.
Pope Francis. You know, I didn't believe it could be real that I got asked to cook for the second Pope, and certainly for Pope Francis. I said, well, you know, he's Italian, he's from Piemonte, his grandparents. And so I made a lot of risottos for him. He loved that veal, light veal, a whole beautiful roasted fish. Now, we would do lunch and dinner. He would come home for lunch. This particular day, he took a rest. And us, the staff, were in the kitchen. All of a sudden, the Secret Service went, the Pope! And all of a sudden, he appears, you know, in his white gown with his skull cap. He was looking at us. We were having our coffee. Posso avere un caffè con voi? Can I have a coffee with you? I mean, you know, what are you going to say? We offered him a seat, whatever. He didn't want a seat. He stayed with us for about 20 minutes, had a cup of coffee with us, and talked to each one of us. And when he finished, he went into his pocket and pulled out rosary beads, blessed each one of the workers, and gave to each one of them a set of the beads. It was just I mean, you know, extraordinary.
Doesn't get any better than that.
It certainly doesn't.